Lucy's Kitchen, it's Lucy's Kitchen. She's Lucy and she's got a kitchen. Lucy's Kitchen.
And now that we've got your attention, let's cook. Hi there. Welcome to Lucy's Kitchen. I'm Lucy, and this is my kitchen. Today I want to introduce you to a wonderful dish, cauliflower mac and cheese. In this dish, cauliflower is the macaroni. Everybody loves that because it tastes just like their favorite dish, macaroni and cheese. Well, in our case, we substitute cauliflower. The cauliflower is wonderful because it's low carb and low cal by comparison to macaroni. A cup of cauliflower is 70 calories. A cup of macaroni is about 200 calories. Doesn't take much thinking to realize quite a savings of calories. The thing is, it's so delicious, nobody would know the difference. Of course, it's also a sneaky way to get vegetables into everybody's tummy. I know if you have the kind of children that I had, sometimes it was a little bit difficult to convince them to eat vegetables. So this is a really, really great dish. It's a versatile dish too. It can be a side dish, or it can be a very hearty main course dish. Serve it with a salad. I think you've got dinner. It's really great. Well, we're going to start by talking about the cauliflower. A good head of cauliflower is about 2 pounds. We need 8 cups of cauliflower, and I've cut it into tiny pieces about the size of a little piece of pasta. And what we want to do is we want to use some of the cauliflower stem as well. So how do we get into this little thing? This is kind of a complicated vegetable, isn't it? Because it has all this armor around it. Well, you just peel that back, and as soon as you do, you can see where the stems are. So right in there is a stem, and all you have to do is take one of these nice long knives and poke it in there. And wait a minute. Takes a little bit more doing than that, I guess. And you can break off as much of it as you want. So I'm just going to take one of these pieces off and show you the typical cauliflower piece in case you've never used cauliflower before. What I like to do is remove all the florets, these are called florets, and cut them into bite-sized pieces. There's also a bit of stem on here. The stem is totally edible. It's very tender, so we're going to dice that up. But I'm not talking about the big stem, okay? This is the big stem that sits right here at the bottom of the cauliflower. That stem can be a little bit tough, so I'm going to just get rid of that one. But I'm going to keep the stem that's attached to this. We start by cutting off the stem. Now I'm going to just take that and dice it up. So I cut it in half lengthwise. And if I want it even smaller, just cut it that way. We've got some nice tiny little dice. I've cut the stem a little bit smaller than you would cut the florets because it's a little tougher. It is tender compared to this, but it's still a little tougher compared to this. Now what we've got is this lovely little sort of a tree underneath, or a bush. So I'm going to just take my knife and I'm going to cut it in half. And I don't usually cut all the way through so that I don't make it crumble. I cut through the stem and then I just pull it apart. And then we start to cut our little florets off. So I'm going to do it backwards here to show you. So here's typical floret. We just reach in there and cut that off. Reach in there and cut that off. Okay, now this one's very small and it's just the right size. This one is a little bit too big, so not a big deal. There's little branches all over it. You just slip your knife right into the little branches and slide it off. There you go. This is, it's super easy once you get the hang of it. Cauliflower sometimes intimidates people, but it's such a versatile and delicious vegetable, so nutritious. It's, totally worth getting comfortable with it. So I am now cutting this into little florets. And again, think of small pasta. When we cook this, it's going to be just like eating pasta. It's going to be al dente. So it'll still have a little bite. We're not going to cook this beyond a reasonable doubt, beyond an inch of its life. We're just going to steam it for 5 minutes, make it tender, and that's all. So we'll do that in a few minutes. In the meantime, I'll talk to you a little bit about the sauce. Now, macaroni and cheese, as you know, is made of a lot of cheese and often other ingredients, and ours is a bit more gourmet. So we've got 3 kinds of cheddar, and I've got regular mild cheddar, sharp cheddar, and an aged cheddar shredded in here. About, oh, well, it's 2 cups. That's what you need, is 2 cups. I've got a cup of cream, because that helps it melt and get creamy. I've got some cream cheese, about 4 ounces of cream cheese, and I have about 3 ounces of blue cheese, and this blue cheese is actually gorgonzola. Any kind of blue cheese would do. And for those of you who aren't crazy about blue cheese, you can use just a little bit and try it. You can't really taste the blue cheese. It just gives it an enticing bite that makes this dish seem very, very deluxe, which it is. I've got some salt and pepper. I've got some, a half teaspoon of dried onions. These onion flakes are very, very handy. I don't really want to sit here and chop an onion, and the onion also might give off too much liquid when you start to cook this. I find that these onion flakes are just about the right flavor, and they're very handy. So I keep them around and I use them. And personally, I love cumin. Now, you can use cumin, or you don't have to use cumin. This is a personal choice, but I think it really brings out an amazing flavor in this macaroni and cheese, in this cauliflower mac and cheese. The other thing I put in this mac and cheese, which makes it especially delicious, is I put bacon in it. We're going to, once everything is ready, we're going to toss the cauliflower in a big bowl with bacon and the sauce, and then we're going to put it into a baking dish, and we will put it in the oven for a few minutes, and it'll be ready. So let's get on to the next step. All right, we're going to steam our cauliflower. I've got some water boiling here. Actually, it's just simmering, but that's okay. I'm going to put it on a different burner. And we're going to put this cauliflower, which is now in a 2-quart steamer, on top, cover it up, and I'm going to move it over to another burner. It has to steam for 5 minutes, but in that time, we're going to make our sauce. So let me just move this over. There we go. And I'll bring this right here. Okay, so now this is cold, so I made my mitt, and we'll just turn this up. Let it warm up for a second, and I've got all my ingredients just ready to go. That is very helpful when you want to just do things really quick. Once you have your cauliflower cut up into little pieces, this dish really takes almost no time at all. So I'm going to pour the cream in there and let it start to get bubbly. And I'm going to go ahead and put the savories in there, the seasonings, the onion, the cumin, and the salt and pepper, which is half a teaspoon of salt and half a teaspoon of pepper. We might not need more than that. Now, if you were making this dish and wanted to use real macaroni, you could, but you would have to increase your liquid because macaroni tends to absorb the liquid. So you'd have to use probably another half cup to 3/4 of a cup of cream, or a combination of cream and half, or cream and sour cream. But you can use less when you're using cauliflower, because the cauliflower isn't like a sponge and it's not going to absorb it. Now I'm seeing this just start to bubble. You can tell because it has a little bit of movement in it, which means it's just starting to get happy. So I'm going to test it by dropping a little cheese in there and see what happens. Oh, it's going to be great. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my cream cheese. Now, you could cut that cream cheese into chunks. The second thing I'm going to put in is the the gorgonzola. And the best thing to do is to crumble it first. So I've got the cream cheese melting in the, I'm going to turn this down a little bit, melting in the cream. And I'm going to just break this into some chunks with this big fork. And that's just going to help it melt a little more evenly. So let's turn this through here. I'm going to turn it all the way to low. Now I'm going to add the gorgonzola. So it's going to take a couple of minutes for that to melt, but not that long, not as long as you would think. Now, one of the reasons I only use half a teaspoon of salt is that this dish has so much cheese of different kinds that it could become very salty, and you don't want it to be over salty. And plus, we're putting in all that bacon. I cooked 12 slices of bacon in the oven. And almost all of it is going to go in here. So this looks like it's coming fairly smooth. Okay, now it's pretty smooth. Turn my heat up just a little. Make sure it's smooth. You don't want any lumpy blue cheese in here. So you want to make sure that it really melts. Don't bring it to a boil. We just want this to gently melt, because if you brought it to a boil, you could curdle it. What that means is it could separate the fat from the cheese, and then you could end up with a layer of fat on top. So turn it down. That's the best way to go. And then finally, we're going to put in all of our cheddar cheeses. So we're just going to push them in there till they melt. Everything's melting beautifully. This is the most incredible cheese mixture you could imagine. You could really make fondue out of this. And as soon as it's creamy, turn off your heat and you're done. That's great. I'm going to put the lid on it for just a minute while we wait to see whether our cauliflower is ready. And the cauliflower should be al dente, like a good al dente pasta. Truth is, you can eat cauliflower raw, so it really doesn't matter. And it is going to cook some more in the oven. So I'm just looking at this and it seems great. Really great. All right, that's it. Now we're going to combine everything. All right, I've got my steamed cauliflower. I'm going to just dump it in here. And, well, you can see it's very hot. Perfect time to mix all the rest of the ingredients. I've got my cheese sauce. We're going to just pour it on here. And I'm going to start to mix it and see how we're doing. Oh, yeah. Now, that's probably enough, but I don't know. Might as well put in a little more. It can't hurt, right? Okay. Oh my God. And it smells just like mac and cheese. So you don't get a lot out. Ooh, I steamed up my glasses. You don't get a lot out of that cumin, but it's going to offer a nice little piquant flavor on the side. And frankly, I think it could use even more. So there we go. Now the rest that's left, save it. Put it on some bread. make very, very good melt. Okay, now I've got plenty of cheese in here. So now I want to take my bacon. I've got 12 slices of bacon, and they're crumbled into fairly large pieces. Now I cook these in the oven, which is a great way to cook bacon because you can cook a lot all together and it doesn't really make a mess. It's really great. So I cooked the 12, and what we want to do is we want to put most of them inside and then save some for the top. So if I had to guess, I'd say we're using about 9, 10 inside. And you want to mix it up really well so that it gets the bacon distributed throughout. And here I have a covered baking dish. If your baking dish doesn't have a cover, it's okay. You can use aluminum foil. This baking dish is a 2-quart baking dish, just the right size. I've heavily buttered the inside, and that is key. Even though we have a lot going on here, that will keep it from sticking too much to the sides. And so now that we're all set, all mixed, I'm going to go ahead and pour this in. Get that piece of bacon. And all right, now we're going to flatten the top. And now I'm going to put the rest of the bacon on it. So we're going to sort of have like a bacon crust on top. And you want it fairly even. Goes without saying. Then I've got a 1/4 cup. Oh, here's a piece of yum. I've got a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese, shredded Parmesan cheese. I'm going to sprinkle over the top because we don't have enough cheese in this dish. And I'm going to cover it. Yum. And we're going to put it in the oven for a little while until it browns on top. So I will see you right back here when it's ready to eat. Okay, we're back with our incredible mac and cheese, which of course, as we mentioned, was really cauliflower and bacon and the most delicious cheeses imaginable. I'm going to give myself a serving here. Can't wait to try it. Oh, cheesy and gooey, just marvelous. Oh, get some of that bacon. Look at that. That is fantastic. I'm going to serve this with an arugula salad. Love arugula because it is a marvelous peppery kind of green. Getting it everywhere now, which really kind of enhances the flavor of whatever it's served with. It's got its own flavor, and it just sets off the flavor of your dish so beautifully. And it's easy to dress. Just drizzle a little olive oil on it with perhaps some lemon juice, maybe a sprinkle of Parmesan cheese, and you've got something really delicious. Well, let's go. This is an incredible dish. So I can smell the cumin. It smells kind of exotic. I'm going to take a taste with Wow. Okay, that's fantastic. First of all, the cumin gives it a nice little smoky flavor, not overwhelming by any means. And if you taste it and eat it, you don't really get the sense of like cumin, but it's definitely there in the background, and it just gives it a richness, incredible richness. And that goes for the blue cheese too. I can taste a piquancy to the cheese. It's almost like a sharpness. And that's in addition to the sharpness of our 3 cheddar cheeses. It's just wonderful. And the bacon, of course, is still crispy and delicious because we made sure that it was crispy to begin with. I can't think of a better dish. This is a great dish to just have as a main course. It's also a great dish if you have ribs as a side dish. You can also serve it to company if you have roasted pork tenderloin. Just the sky's the limit. It is a traditional mac and cheese, but the mac, of course, is cauliflower. It's gourmet and it's everyday. So I hope you give it a try. Well, that's it for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're so happy you joined us here at Lucy's Kitchen, and please join us next time for more delicious recipes from my kitchen to yours.